less awkward this video. I'm just gonna not think about the fact that I'm on camera. So I haven't posted in about 7 months, and I want to get back into posting, obviously. I also have an Instagram that I also haven't posted on in months, which is crazy, because I was very consistent with that for years. So I feel like I've just fallen out of, I don't know, like the social media side of things. I've still really been loving reading, and it's honestly kind of given me a little bit of freedom to read more out of what I feel like I should be reading, because my like Instagram page is very centered around like horror, thrillers, Fear Street, 90s kind of books, which I do love, but I just felt like it put me in a little bit of a box for years that I 100% put myself in, and I wanted to like create a brand for myself there. I wanted to make something that I felt like people knew what to expect and like would come back because they loved this specific thing. But I want to also just read what I want to read, no matter what the genre is. So I think that's what I'm hoping to be more comfortable with on YouTube. I still love horror, and I still love YA, Fear Street, Christopher Pike, all those kinds of books. I will still definitely be reading those. I'm just gonna be myself. So, try my best at least. Okay, so the purpose of this video is sort of a check-in on the wrap-up of 2025, since I never really gave one, obviously. Just talk about some of the books I loved, what I have been reading, what I've read so far this year, and what I want to read in February. So that's what this video is going to be about. So I'm just going to have like a quick overview of books that I loved from 2025. Most of them, I don't know if it's just because it's more fresh in my head, but like October and December I feel like were the best reading months for me, quality-wise of the books. But I did have a few books from earlier in the year that I loved. I probably won't dive too deep into them, just because I feel like I have a lot of books to talk about. So the first book I have that I loved in 2025 was We Could Be Rats by Emily Austen. Hi Luna. If you hear little clickety-clackities, that's the dogs walking around. So, from what I remember reading this book, I just loved it was a very moving book and emotional and hard, and I definitely think you should check out the trigger warnings before reading this book. For some reason, when I was looking at the cover, I thought this was like some happy romance book, I guess because of like the bright pinks, and it kind of looks like couples on a ride. But that is not what this is at all. It is more about family and sisters and mental health, and it's just, even though it feels like it's hard for me to remember, a lot of aspects of this book have stuck with me, and I just remember the feeling I had when reading this, and I really, really loved it. And I think any book that makes me like feel really deep emotions will pretty much almost always get a 5-star from me, and I really loved it. I recommend this one, but do be careful with it. It does have heavy subject matter. It is a heavy one, but I definitely recommend it if you feel comfortable with reading a book like this. And I think it was really well done, and I want to read more of her books. She talks about these dark, hard topics, but with sort of a sense of humor, and I really enjoy that kind of book. So this is one recommendation. Another one that is a little bit on the heavier side is Klara and the Sun. I really love this book. I know that it was very popular for a while, a few years ago, and I just got to reading it last year. So this one has a very short description on the back, so I'll read it. From her place in the store, Klara, an artificial friend with outstanding observational qualities, watches carefully the behavior of those who come in to browse and of those who pass in the street outside. She remains hopeful a customer will soon choose her, but when the possibility emerges that her circumstances may change forever, Klara is warned not to invest too much in the promises of humans. In Klara and the Sun, Kazuo Ishiguro looks at our rapidly changing modern world through the eyes of an unforgettable narrator to explore a fundamental question. What does it mean to love? So this is sort of like a dystopian-y future type book about Klara, an artificial friend, and she is picked by this girl who has health issues. So that's sort of a big topic in this book of this girl's health and how she came to be in the situation she's in. Similar to We Could Be Rats, it's about family and friendship, and this has a more like sci-fi almost take on it from the perception of Klara as an artificial friend, robot companion, basically. But yeah, really, really good. I'm sure most of you have heard of this book, so I won't go too much into it, but this was one of my favorite reads of last year. The next few books are all from October, November, December. So they are on the spookier side, which is my preference. But one is Witchcraft for Wayward Girls by Grady Hendrix. Grady Hendrix is one of my favorite authors. Typically, if I read one of his books, it is easily 4 or 5 stars. This is probably my favorite book of his now. Really, really loved it. This is about girls in the 70s, young girls who get pregnant. They get sent away from home, basically, which is a real thing that happened, and he takes this real part of history and adds a witchy spin to it, and I think he did a great job. I love the characters. It's hard to describe one of his books because they are silly, but they always, I feel like, have an emotional undercurrent that connects everything, and I just really, really enjoyed this book. It was moving and entertaining, and I sped through it. Love this one. I gotta move quicker. Okay, another one that I really enjoyed from last year. I think this one I only gave 4 stars, but I am including it because I just really loved it and it made me want to read more. So When the Crows Away is the sequel to In the Company of Witches, and it's about Bryn Warren, who lives with her 2 aunts. They're witches, they live in an inn, and Bryn's gift is that she can communicate with ghosts. So this book is a murder mystery where she helps this ghost who died in her town. This person who became a ghost died in her town, and he is positive he's been murdered, and he wants Bryn's help to bring his killer to justice. His name is Mort. It's really cute. I feel like the first book felt a little slower to me, which is probably typical for building of the characters and the world, but I really enjoyed it. It made me want more, and I think part of why I feel so passionate about this book is that when I was looking into if there were going to be, or when I was looking into when the 3rd book would be coming out, right now that's not a thing. They, the publisher, Berkeley, I think, discontinued these, like, pocket books, like the small size books, so it's not guaranteed that this will get to continue, and I really hope it will, especially because it left off on like a cliffhanger, so I really hope this continues, and I really, really enjoyed this book. The next two books are probably contenders for my top book of last year. Both really loved them. Very, very different books. My next top book from last year is Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier, and I love this book. It's like a gothic romance suspense novel. Really enjoyed it. We never know the name of the main character, which I think is interesting. She is working as a lady's maid at the beginning of this book, and she's an orphan. She doesn't have much going for her in life, and she meets this man who is wealthy and sort of sweeps her off her feet, and she falls in love with him. So she goes back with him to his estate, which is called Manderley. And the whole premise of this book is that his late wife, Rebecca, titular name Rebecca, once she arrives to his home, she realizes how vast a shadow his late wife Rebecca will cast over their lives, introducing a lingering evil that threatens to destroy their love from beyond the grave. So with that description, I thought it was going to be a bit more supernatural than it ended up being, so I was surprised by that and initially a little disappointed, but the story itself is not lacking, even though it wasn't exactly what I thought it was going to be. I think it still was very, very well done and interesting and exactly as it was supposed to be. This is something that I would recommend if you are looking into more like classic literature. If you're afraid to read classics, which I definitely am sometimes, this is a really great book. It was suspenseful. It has a part of it that just has stuck with me. The writing is beautiful. It doesn't take much to get used to it. It's not like a lot of older books where you may have to adjust to the writing style. At least for me, I thought it was easy to get into and understand. Yeah, it's like a romance, but it's also a lot about the main character's personal growth, just as herself. And so I really, really love this book. I definitely want to, as soon as I finished it, I was like, I kind of want to read this again. And that's always a sign of a good book, is when you want to jump right back in and be with these characters. And if you are a rereader, you know, like each time you read a book, you find new things in it. And so I think that is awesome whenever you have a book that you just want to jump right back into. So that is one of my favorite books from last year, Rebecca. Okay, and then possibly my top book of the year last year is When the Wolf Comes Home by Nat Cassidy. So this book is very different from Rebecca, which I would almost say is sort of slow burny. It's a lot happens, but it's not like a jam-packed action book, which is how I would describe When the Wolf Comes Home. There's a lot going on. It's this world unfolds around you, and you sort of have to catch up as you're reading it. I don't know if that makes sense. Like, if you go in not really knowing anything about it, it will surprise you, some of the twists and turns that take place. But I really, really love this book. Did not expect to love it as much as I did. Again, it had like a deep emotional level that I was not expecting, and it really pulled me in, and I connected to it, and I just thought it was so interesting and so well done. So I'll read the back of this one too, just because it's short and just to give you an idea. One night, Jess, a struggling actress, finds a 5-year-old runaway hiding in the bushes outside her apartment. After a violent, bloody encounter with the boy's father, she and the boy find themselves running for their lives. As they attempt to evade the boy's increasingly desperate father, horrifying incidents of butchery follow them. At first, Jess thinks she understands what they're up against, but she's about to learn that there's more to these surreal and grisly events than she could have ever imagined. And that when the wolf finally comes home, no one will be spared. Really good. One, I will say, it, like, just looking at the cover and from the description of the book, I thought it was just going to be a basic horror novel, and I do think it goes off in different directions and into a little bit of, or almost feels like different genres at times, like more sci-fi, in my opinion. And one book that it mentions is the Lath of Heaven, I don't know how to pronounce it, which I did read because of this book. So if you've read that book, there are elements of that that connect to this. But yeah, it was very unexpected. The way that this book turned out and the things that happened and the way it happened, yeah, I don't know. I just loved every second of it. It was crazy. One of the craziest books I've ever read, and I definitely recommend it. So yeah, those are my top books from 2025. It's a little weird talking about those books just now because even though I haven't posted in 7 months, I have tried to film videos within the last 7 months in which I've talked about all of those books. So doing that quick rundown just felt a little strange, but I'm glad to have done it because I read some really, really good books last year, so I would hate not to have talked about them at all. So, and then this year, I've read 5 books, and 3 of them have been audiobooks, which has really helped me keep up my reading. The first audiobook I listened to was My Lady Jane. Really loved it. I thought it was fun, and I think it was performed so well, and I listen to all my audiobooks on Libby. You can just get that through your library with the library card, and then the books that they have available in your area will be on there and you can download them for free. So the 3 audiobooks I've listened to this year are My Lady Jane. I don't remember the author of that book, but I'll try to include it somewhere in here. We Solve Murders by Richard Osman. Also really enjoyed. I loved The Thursday Murder Club. I've only read the first book in that series, but I really, really liked it, so I want to keep reading, and when I saw that book was available and written by him, I thought I had to try it, and I really loved it. It was cute and a little more action-y than what I'm used to, but it was really fun. Recommend it. And then the last audiobook I listened to was I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy. Really, really good. Definitely, obviously, if you've heard of that book, you know it's about the abuse Jeanette suffered by her mom, her struggles in the entertainment industry with Nickelodeon, and just her and being a child actor, just the hard things she went through. And again, like, she brings humor and a levity to these topics, but is also honest and does not hold back. So it can be hard to hear or read audiobooks, so I heard it, these things that happened to her, but it's also was really moving and interesting to read about someone going through those things and overcoming them and working on them. And it's, I don't know, I think it's important that those stories are told and people can be open and honest about what they've been through and their struggles. And so yeah, I really liked it, and I see why it was as popular as it was, and I did really enjoy listening to her read the book herself, so that was definitely a plus. I was surprised to see it available on Libby. It didn't have a hold, so I just got to check it out and listen to it. I listened to it in 3 days. I really liked it. And then the 2 physical books I've read this year are Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir, and I really liked it. I think there were parts I really liked. There were parts I thought dragged on a little bit, and I thought that the story was really interesting. I loved the characters. I loved Rocky. He was so cute. I won't say too much about what it's about, just because I don't want to spoil anything if you haven't read it, but the movie is coming out, and my boyfriend read this book like a year ago, and he's been recommending it to me for a long time, so I finally sat down and read it. I really enjoyed it. I did think the ending was a bit rushed, but I do think it overall was a really strong book and really cool. I don't read many books like that. So, it's about an astronaut who goes to space to try to save Earth. But yeah, I think just if you do want to read it, go into it not knowing much. Be surprised. It was fun and dramatic and exciting, and I really liked it. And then my last book and most recent book that I finished, and my first 5-star read of the year, is The Exorcist by William Peter Blatty. This book was crazy. I haven't seen the movie. I'm a little scared to watch the movie, honestly. Not necessarily because of the film itself, but just because I think it's kind of like, people view it as sort of like a cursed film because of things that happen on set, things that have happened to people that were in the movie. So I'm a little scared to watch it, honestly, but I do think I want to see it. This is definitely not a book I would recommend to everyone. If you're on the more sensitive side, maybe don't read it. I was most surprised with this book, and it'll sort of be spoily, so don't listen if you haven't read it or you want to read it. I was surprised by how hopeful this book kind of was at the end. One of the main priest that we spend a lot of the book with, he is struggling with his faith. He is dealing with the loss of his mother recently, and he is dealing with a lot of personal guilt for that situation, and the ending of the book, he sort of has a triumphant moment, and I just thought that was very interesting for a book like this to have that outcome, sort of like the good guys won in a way. And it's definitely dark. It's definitely harder to read than a lot of books. Scary. I did read this a lot at night, which was crazy. But I flew through this book. It was addicting. So yeah, if you don't know, it's about this little girl named Reagan who gets possessed. Her mom is an actress. They are located in DC for her filming a movie, and luckily she's right across the street from like this Catholic school where these priests work, and they're able to come to her house and help her once she decides that she wants Reagan to get an exorcism. It was just dark and compelling and very interesting, surprisingly hopeful, as I said, and it doesn't hold back at all, and it just felt very real. I don't know how else to describe it. I don't know how to talk about this book, honestly. It's kind of like, almost like a fever dream after you're finished, I feel like. But yeah, if you like horror, definitely look into trigger warnings for this book. But yeah, I think that's pretty much all I have to say. This story is very familiar to people. If you're interested, I highly recommend it. If you're not, if you're worried about reading it, maybe don't, because I do think it's all the things people say it is. I do have to go soon, so I'm gonna try to hurry this last part a little bit. I've been trying to hurry this whole video. But, so right now, what am I reading? I started Dungeon Crawler Carl by Matt Dinniman, and I am enjoying it. It's a little bit more video gamey than I expected. It sort of reminds me of a sillier version of, shoot, what is that anime? Okay, so now I actually have to be fast. My phone filled up again, so I had to delete some more stuff. And Winnie decided to join. She is just leaning on my back, sleeping. Okay, so reading Dungeon Crawler Carl currently. I am enjoying it. I started off a little questionable, but I am starting to get more into the story. She's so cute. I was trying to think of the anime it reminds me of. It is Solo Leveling, but a silly version of Solo Leveling so far. So I'm not very far into it. But yeah, this is my first book I started in February. And then February is Black History Month, so I obviously want to make sure to read books by Black authors and also about significant people of color in history. So I have this biography that came out, I think, a year or two ago by Jonathan Eig. King Life. So I started this. It's huge. I'm going to be reading it on and off throughout the month of February and hopefully finish it in February. We'll see. I am enjoying it so far. I just started it yesterday. I'm only 18 pages in, so we'll see. I am really liking it so far. So the next book that I thought would be a great pick for Black History Month is Beloved by Toni Morrison. I honestly do not know much about it. I read The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison last year. I really liked it. I really like her writing. It was very moving, and I imagine that this will be the same way. So this is on my list for the month of February as well. And then I also have The Year of the Witching by Alexis Henderson on my TBR for February. So this says, a young woman living in a rigid puritanical society discovers dark powers within herself in this stunning feminist fantasy debut. So this sounds really good. I know people really love this book. I see it on a lot of recommendation lists, so it's another book I wanted to prioritize reading this month. The last book I have on here has absolutely nothing to do with Black History Month. I don't know if I'll even get to it this month. I'm just mentioning it because I've been thinking about wanting to read it, so it may end up being on this list. So last year I read The Undertaking of Heart and Mercy, which is like a fantasy romance. Really enjoyed it, and so I have been thinking that I really want to read The Undermining of Twyla and Frank, which is the sequel. So this is a series that is all connected in the same universe. I think the characters interact. I definitely think we met these characters in the last book. So this is sort of a another romantic fantasy. So yeah, it's just a more lighthearted fantasy with it's like a lighthearted, dark fantasy romance that I am really looking forward to and I want to read for some reason. So I'm putting it on the list for this month. May not get to it with all these other books I have on the list. But so that's what I have right now. So this might be where I end the video. I don't know if I'll add more, if I'll do some little clips here or there of reading, but right now this was just a sort of quick check-in on last year and what I am now currently reading this year. I hope you're all doing well. I have a job interview tomorrow that I am a little nervous about, so hopefully that will go well. Maybe I'll give an update in this video if I find out anything before I post this. But yeah, I hope to get back to some normalcy, to some posting, and some more reading. I hope you're all doing amazing, and I hope to check in with you again soon. Bye!